Many times we think of a greeting as simply a polite gesture, a social habit we repeat almost automatically. We say hi, shake hands, maybe offer a hug, and move on. But when we look a little closer, we realize that fleeting moment holds much more than it seems. Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, once said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That's exactly what happens in a greeting when there is attraction. It's not just an exchange of words, it's an emotional reaction, a subtle transformation that marks the beginning of something that words alone cannot fully express. When a man feels attracted to a woman, that first contact, that greeting that might seem trivial, becomes a window into his inner world. His body reacts before his mind can catch up. His gaze shifts, his energy changes, his gestures lose their neutrality. Even if he tries to hide it, even if he says nothing, the way he greets her reveals what he feels, often more clearly than he realizes himself. As Jung also said, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In a greeting, the unconscious speaks without filters. There are no strategies, no rehearsed lines, only instinct, emotion, and presence. And that's what makes this everyday gesture a privileged point of observation for those who know how to pay attention. If he greets you in a different way, if there's something in how he approaches you, how he looks at you, how he lightly touches you, it's because his unconscious is revealing something his words haven't yet caught up with. Attraction doesn't always come in the form of direct statements. Sometimes it hides in how his voice subtly shifts when he sees you, in how he straightens up as you approach, or in how his expression softens involuntarily in response to your presence. This video is an invitation to observe the invisible, to learn how to read the signals that appear in the first few seconds of an encounter before the body has had time to lie. Because in those moments, what is felt becomes visible, and if you know how to read it, you can uncover deep truths, even those he hasn't admitted to himself yet. We're going to explore how a man greets a woman when he truly likes her. We'll uncover those subtle but powerful details that often go unnoticed but say everything. You'll see that it's not just about how he approaches, but where his attention goes, whether his gaze lingers on your hair, if he smiles spontaneously at the sight of you, or if his gestures seek minimal physical contact as if trying to make the moment last. That alone is a silent confession. No matter how brief the greeting, if there is attraction, that moment becomes a small, emotional story filled with meaning. We'll also talk about you, because if you feel something too, you can turn that greeting into an unforgettable emotional experience for him. You can leave a mark that's as delicate as it is powerful, something that stays with him long after you've said goodbye. This isn't about manipulation, but about expressing yourself authentically, from that place where desire and tenderness meet. Jung said, nothing has a stronger psychological effect on a child than the unlived life of the parent. And this can be extended to all relationships. Gestures never expressed, feelings never shown. They leave a mark too. In this greeting, you have a chance to live something from a place of truth. So stay with me, because you're about to see one of the most ordinary gestures in life through a whole new lens. And after this video, you might realize that no greeting is ever just a greeting once you understand what's truly happening in that moment. Because when two people meet, their bodies speak long before their mouths do. And when attraction is involved, that silent language becomes even louder. A greeting that seems like a simple routine can become a kind of emotional ritual, where the unconscious takes the lead and reveals what the conscious mind is still trying to hide. And it's precisely this silent dance between what's visible and invisible that turns a simple greeting into such a powerful signal. Carl Jung reminded us that the meeting of two people is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That moment of greeting is often the initial spark where something shifts. When a man feels attracted to a woman, the way he greets her changes entirely, even if he doesn't consciously notice it. His posture shifts, his gaze becomes more intense, his smile warmer, his tone of voice softer. His entire body language starts to resonate on a different frequency. It's no longer just about fulfilling a social custom. It's about holding that moment, capturing her attention, connecting in a way that isn't as direct as a declaration, but still manages to communicate something meaningful. The greeting then becomes a small confession, disguised as courtesy, a silent, "I like you," that escapes through gestures. This change isn't random. From the perspective of analytical psychology, repressed emotions find their way out through the body. The unconscious, according to Jung, doesn't only shape our dreams, it also influences many of our everyday actions without us even realizing. So what seems like an innocent greeting may be filled with deeper meanings, a slight touch on the arm, a slower hug, a surprised expression upon seeing you. These are not insignificant details, they are little cracks through which his feelings escape, even if he hasn't dared to name them. In those first few seconds before any conversation starts, the body has already told its own story. It's the most honest space in the interaction, untouched by reason, logic, or strategy. If there's desire, if there's genuine interest, it shows right away. And that's when a greeting becomes a kind of emotional diagnostic tool. You just have to learn to observe it from a more sensitive, intuitive place, one that's attuned to the emotional reality beneath the surface. It's important to understand that not all greetings are the same. There's a clear difference between a greeting driven by routine and one driven by emotion. In the first, movements are mechanical, eye contact is brief, the body maintains a safe distance. In the second, everything shifts. There's an intention to close the distance, a need to hold eye contact longer, an unspoken desire to prolong the moment. That transformation isn't something he consciously decides, it's an automatic emotional reaction triggered from deep within. And if this type of greeting happens repeatedly, if every time he sees you, his body responds with the same pattern of closeness, smiling and openness, then you have a strong sign of attraction. Jung used to say that unexpressed feelings never die, they are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. In this context, we could say that unexpressed feelings will always look for a way to show themselves, and often the greeting is that opening. Context matters too. When a man sees you in an unexpected setting, outside of work, outside of routine, and the way he greets you shifts or intensifies, that reveals even more. It's as if seeing you in a place where he hadn't prepared his reaction forces his body to act with total honesty. No time for masks. Spontaneity in those moments is revealing. If he smiles more than usual, moves closer, looks for an excuse to touch you or comment on your appearance, it's very likely that he's feeling something he can't quite hide, or maybe doesn't even want to hide entirely, even if he's not ready to say it out loud. That's why observing how he greets you is not an exaggeration. It's actually a way of understanding what his unconscious is trying to tell you. In a world where many people fear expressing emotions directly, the body becomes the most reliable channel for truth. And once you learn to read those silent messages, you realize that emotions always find a way to be revealed. So next time he greets you, pay attention. Watch his eyes, his posture, his tone of voice, how long it takes him to let go of your hand or hug. Because within that brief, ordinary gesture may lie the beginning of a story that hasn't yet been told. And perhaps just as Jung believed that the soul speaks in symbols, you'll come to understand that a greeting is one of the purest and most powerful symbols we have to say, "You matter to me," without using words. Sign number 1, he looks at your hair with attention. There is something deeply symbolic in the way a man observes a woman's hair, especially in those first moments of a greeting. It may seem like a minor detail, a meaningless distraction, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful and least understood signs of emotional attraction. When a man notices your hair, he's not simply observing a physical feature. He's unintentionally revealing the emotional lens through which he's seeing you, because no one focuses on the superficial unless there's something deeper driving their attention. Hair has historically symbolized identity, sensuality, and personal expression. Changing it is a silent declaration of renewal, transformation, or sometimes an unconscious search for attention. So when a man notices it, and even more so when he comments on it, he's acknowledging much more than a simple aesthetic change. He's saying through his non-verbal language that he sees you, that he's paying attention, that something about you has captured him in a special way. If his gaze rests there when he greets you, and especially if he offers a compliment, we can be almost certain that it wasn't accidental. This behavior isn't common in all men. In fact, most don't tend to notice subtle changes in appearance in people they're not emotionally invested in. The male brain, like the female one, constantly filters stimuli, and only what resonates emotionally gets through. That's why if he picks up on a new color, a different hairstyle, or even a change in the texture of your hair, he's telling you with his attention that you occupy a prominent space in his perception. It's his way of focusing on what makes you unique, on what sets you apart from the rest. Jung used to say that attention is a form of love, and this kind of observation fits that idea perfectly. Looking at someone closely, registering their details, being fully present with open senses, that's not something we do with just anyone. We only do it when part of us feels emotionally engaged, when something inside wants to connect. And that gets reflected in a greeting, in a way that's almost imperceptible but deeply meaningful. Beyond just looking, how he looks also matters. If his expression changes when he sees you, if a smile accompanies that observation, if his gaze lingers longer than normal or moves slowly across your features, it suggests he's not merely noticing a change, he's appreciating it. He's searching for an excuse to initiate a connection, to prolong the interaction, to express admiration without being too obvious. Complimenting your hair can often be a subtle way of complimenting you without seeming too forward. When the compliment comes with a genuine smile, a slight lean toward you, or even a small gesture like him touching his own hair while speaking, you're witnessing a kind of body language synchronicity that only happens when there's genuine interest. It's his unconscious way of drawing closer, mirroring you, building a small emotional bridge that connects him to you on a more intimate level. That gesture may seem subtle, but it carries a much stronger emotional charge than it appears to. Another revealing clue is how he reacts if you bring up your new look. If he shows enthusiasm, if he engages in the conversation even though he knows nothing about styles or colors, if he responds with a look of approval or even with a clumsy but charming comment, that also reveals that he cares about how you perceive him. Because when there's attraction, we want to please and we show interest in the other's changes. At its core, it's a way of saying, I'm here, I see you, and I want you to see me too. This kind of attention tends to repeat itself. He may bring it up again days later or reference it spontaneously in another situation. He might say he liked your previous style more, or that this new change brings out your eyes. Regardless of the opinion he shares, what truly matters is that he stored that image in his memory. He's thought about you after the greeting, and even if he doesn't say it out loud, that alone speaks volumes. And if you notice that this behavior is something he shows only with you, not with others, then you have an even clearer sign that there's an emotion moving underneath the surface. Jung said that nothing has a stronger influence on the environment than the unlived life of a person. Maybe this man hasn't expressed his feelings in words, but through his greeting, his body has begun to live them. Because looking at your hair isn't just about aesthetics. It's a symbolic expression, a sign of emotional attention, a silent signal that, at least for a moment, he's seeing you with eyes that want to understand you, admire you, remember you, and maybe stay a little closer. Sign number 2, he smiles and raises his eyebrows when he sees you. There are bodily reactions that are so immediate and genuine, they completely bypass conscious control. One of the clearest and most meaningful when it comes to attraction is the sincere smile paired with a slight lift of the eyebrows the moment someone sees you. In that brief gesture, often imperceptible unless you're really paying attention, may lie one of the truest expressions of emotional desire. It's a signal that comes from within. and its spontaneity gives it powerful psychological weight. When a man is attracted to a woman and sees her appear, his face reacts before his mind catches up. That effortless smile and the subtle eyebrow raise that lasts barely a second are both responses from the limbic system, the most emotional part of the brain. There's no calculation, no deliberate intention, it just happens. And as Jung said, emotions that are not expressed never die. They are buried in the unconscious and will emerge later in uglier ways. In this case, they don't need to hide. They come through in an involuntary gesture that reveals everything. This type of smile, what experts call the Duchenne smile, is easy to identify if you know what to look for. Unlike a polite or social smile, which only involves the mouth, the genuine smile activates the muscles around the eyes as well. It feels warmer, more radiant, more real. When a man looks at you and smiles like that with a subtle lift of the eyebrows, his whole face seems to light up. It's a signal of deep liking, positive surprise, genuine joy. The eyebrow raise itself serves an ancient purpose. It's associated with attention, openness, and curiosity. It's a non-verbal way of saying, you interest me, you surprise me, I'm fascinated by you. When it happens during a greeting, especially immediately, it usually points to a real emotion that's broken through his self-control. It's his body speaking for him, without filters or masks. If this reaction happens every time he sees you, it becomes even more telling. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. His emotional system already associates your presence with a sense of excitement, and that's why his body responds the same way each time. That micro gesture, lasting just the blink of an eye, may be one of the most honest signs that he likes you. Jung explained that the unconscious expresses itself through symbols, that what goes unsaid finds alternative ways to surface. In this case, his face becomes that symbol, a way to speak without speaking. What's most fascinating is that this type of smile is often accompanied by other signals, a slight forward lean, a gaze that lingers a little too long, an overall energy of openness. His entire body language aligns to create an emotional moment that doesn't go unnoticed. And even if he doesn't say a word, you can feel it. You can sense that this hello carries a different emotional weight, brighter, livelier. It's also important to pay attention to what happens after that greeting. If he seems to linger longer than necessary, if he tries to prolong the conversation, if he asks trivial questions just to stay near you, then that initial smile wasn't just politeness. It was the doorway to an interaction he wants to continue, even if he doesn't say it directly. Because many times, the body initiates what the heart is not yet ready to confess. And if that smile is accompanied by clumsiness, nervousness, a gesture of discomfort, or a laugh without reason, that too is significant. It means what he feels is so strong that it unsettles him, that the emotion is so present, it interferes with his usual behavior. That emotional unsteadiness, far from being a problem, is a valuable sign. It tells us he's not performing, he's feeling. In some cases, that smile and the raised eyebrows appear even when he wasn't expecting to see you. And in those spontaneous moments where there's no preparation or anticipation, his reaction is even more authentic. If his face lights up, if his body language shifts instantly, if you notice he becomes more open or even more vulnerable, you can be sure that your presence affects him in a positive way. And right there, in that single second, you can see an emotion that isn't hiding. So pay attention. Sometimes the truth lies in the smallest things, in a fleeting gesture that lasts only a moment but means a great deal. Because, as Jung also believed, the small thing you do may be more significant than the big thing you plan to do. And that small thing, that spontaneous smile with raised eyebrows, could be the beginning of something bigger. Perhaps, without him even knowing it, that gesture is already telling you about the emotional place you occupy inside him. Sign number 3, he seeks subtle but meaningful physical contact. There are gestures that need no words because they speak directly from the body. In the world of attraction, physical contact is one of the oldest, most powerful, and most sincere forms of expression. When a man feels attracted to a woman, it's common for his body to seek closeness through small gestures, a gentle touch, a longer than usual hug, a hand that brushes your arm when saying goodbye. Though they may seem casual or innocent, these movements carry emotional weight rarely expressed with words. Physical contact is, in many cases, the most direct attempt by the body to establish an emotional connection. It's not always about immediate physical desire. Often it's a reflection of a need for connection, for closeness, for shortening emotional distance. Jung said that loneliness doesn't come from having no one around, but from being unable to communicate the things that matter most to you. This kind of contact, then, is not just skin on skin, it's a silent form of communication, an attempt to say, "I'm here, I want to be close to you." When he greets you and uses that moment to touch you in a subtle but meaningful way, his body is acting with emotional intent. Maybe he places a hand on your shoulder as he speaks, or hugs you with more warmth, more time, more presence. Maybe his hand lingers gently on your back, or his fingers stay a second longer as they brush against yours. These gestures aren't random, they're unconscious ways of prolonging the moment, of creating a sensory imprint, of making sure you remember him not just with your mind, but with your body. This kind of contact is often distinguishable from casual social contact by its delicacy and frequency. A man who repeats these gestures with you, who seeks them subtly and consistently, is showing that he feels something special. His body is trying to confirm a feeling, to receive a signal, to validate an emotion he may not yet be ready to express openly. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice it clearly. Because even if his words say nothing, his hands, his hugs, his gestures are already telling a story. It's essential to observe how he does it and how he reacts afterward. If he seems more relaxed after that contact, if he smiles, if his energy becomes warmer, it indicates that he's found an emotional safe space in you. Jung taught us that the unconscious expresses itself through symbols, and in this context, physical contact can be one of them, a symbol of desire, of closeness, of deep emotional interest. It doesn't always need rational explanation. It's enough to feel the intensity with which it happens. You should also pay attention to contrast. Does he behave this way only with you? Are his physical gestures toward you different from how he interacts with others? If the answer is yes, that adds even more meaning, because it means that with you, he allows himself a different kind of connection. His body language changes, adapts, becomes more intimate. And that doesn't happen with just anyone. It's a sign that there's a living emotion trying to come out of hiding, quietly, but unmistakably. In each of these signs, a glance at your hair, a genuine smile with raised eyebrows and subtle physical touch, there is something much deeper hidden than a simple, everyday interaction. These are the unconscious attempts of the heart to find a path to closeness. Jung taught us that what is not expressed will seek a way to reveal itself, that the body speaks when the mind is silent, and that truth rarely comes through what is loud, but rather through what is subtle, quiet, yet persistent. That's why it's important to know how to watch, listen, and feel beyond words. Because in those small signs often lie the most sincere emotions. He may never express himself clearly, he might never find the courage to say what he feels. But if you learn to read the language of his body, especially in those first moments of greeting, you'll be able to feel the truth and decide whether to invite that quiet emotion closer or let it pass, because sometimes everything you need to know he's already telling you, just not with words.